Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning into this second episode of Sports Card Academy. I'm very excited to speak with tonight's guest, Josh from Cardboard Chronicles. Cardboard Chronicles has become the leading YouTube-based hobby interview show, with Josh hosting interviews with hobby business leaders from StockX and SGC to high-end collectors and athletes alike. He's the creator behind howtocollectcards.com and one of the hobby's most fascinating new startups, Card Ladder. Oh yeah, did I mention Josh is also the proud owner of an 0304 exquisite LeBron RPA and a Penny Hardaway green PMG? Yep. So tonight we turn the tables and talk building your hobby knowledge and a bit of market dynamics with Josh. So welcome, Josh. Thanks for coming on the channel.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the intro. It's kind of nice to hear it all laid out in like a quick blurb like that. It sounds pretty sweet. Thanks.
It's pretty epic. I mean, when I was putting it together, it was tough to figure out where to sort of draw the line because you got to have a brief intro, right? So to kick things off, why don't you let our viewers know sort of how you got into the hobby, your background in the hobby, and sort of how you've arrived where you're at today?
Sure. So I collected as a kid, and took a break like most people, and then came back in 2016, 2015, 2016, around there. I came back through Pokemon, oddly enough. I was playing Pokemon Go, and I just sort of like got the nostalgia of like 90s and when I was a kid. And then I started looking at my old cards that my mom had at her house, and I just wanted to like finish that set because I never finished the set I wanted as a kid. And now that I'm an adult, and I have money, it took me like one day to finish it. It was almost like too easy and boring.
Yeah.
So I wanted like a challenge. So I was like, let me try to find some more rare stuff. And that just sort of like got me hooked into the whole like hunting for rare items and collecting, and kind of brought me back. And then eventually I kind of got everything I wanted out of Pokemon. And then I was like, let me look at basketball, see if that's still a thing. Cause I collected a little bit of basketball as a kid, but not too much. And it's like, turns out that, yeah, there's like all this crazy, there's autographs and patches and grading, and it was just like super overwhelming. So I just kind of took my time with it and bought cheap stuff. I'd grabbed like cheap LeBron cards, cheap penny cards. I think my first LeBron card was like a $5 like Spectra or something. I don't remember. And then, just sort of like snowballed. And in 2016, there wasn't like there isn't a lot of what you see today with like heavy investing, and today there's a ton of competition, right? There's so many people trying to do it. And in 2016, stuff was cheaper. There wasn't as many people that cared about it, and there was like literally no YouTube content, especially towards like the collecting side. It was just non-existent. So I just sort of like filled the space, and kind of just snowballed from there.
Yeah, I'm back in 2016. There were a few guys that were putting content out, but it was more so like, here are the cards that I have. I want to share it over a virtual platform because there's not someone in my community, my local community, that I could share this with. Right. But you mentioned the transition from Pokemon to basketball, and you started off low, and you sort of mentioned it snowballed and it picked up from there. How do you, well, first, do you have a chosen niche? Would you consider yourself a purely basketball guy at this point? And when you're looking out and setting up yourself to be successful in a new market, what are you looking for?
Yeah. I definitely have a niche, and it's, my niche has kind of shifted around a little bit just because, I don't want to say it like people follow me, but like, I feel like people are kind of following what I'm doing a little bit too much. And I like to do stuff that's unique and different. So like once everybody started doing 90s basketball, I sort of like pivoted away and started doing mid 2000s LeBron stuff. People were really into like exquisite at the time, so I wanted to do more of the chrome refractor gold stuff. And then now that's really popular, so I've gone back to exquisite. It's just sort of like I feel like I'm just sort of trying to find something that's unique to me. And I think that's what makes collecting so fun, is like nobody wants to own, nobody wants to have the same collection as someone else. Everyone wants to be unique and different, and that's what's so great about Instagram, is like you're showing off what you have. So I try to like use that to motivate me to move around in the hobby, and that wasn't really my intention to like do that and make money that way. It just sort of has like blossomed into that naturally, and I think that's just because I think it's a good strategy. Like it's worked out. So
Yeah. It's tough these days to find that new frontier because it
Yeah.
seems like every part of the market is just popping off. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about what, like, say you're going and looking at exquisite cards and you have no background in exquisite cards, but you hear from a friend, you see these cards popping up on Instagram, and it's like, those are really cool. I want to collect those one day. How do you sort of build the knowledge base to be comfortable buying and selling
Mhm.
those types of cards? Is there any strategies you have? Anything you look to?
Yeah, I usually go to find hardcore collectors of those things. Those guys know the most. Like if you are looking to invest in a player and you want to know the most about that player, go find a guy who super collects him. I guarantee you that guy's gonna know way more than you do. You just started, and that's kind of like been my mantra for like the whole Cardboard Chronicles channel is that like I
Yeah.
don't know everything and none of us do. So like let me bring on people who do know more about other things that I don't know about, and
Mm-hmm.
that just sort of has been like uh the driving force behind how I collect. And so like if I like your example of exquisite, I would just go straight to people who already collect exquisite because there's someone that collects everything,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys know value of stuff even when it doesn't sell. Like they'll tell you, yeah, the last comp is here. I'm pretty confident if it came out for auction today, it would be worth this, and
Yeah.
then I now have that knowledge to go to somebody who's trying to sell exquisite, and I have that number in my head, and maybe I can get it for a little bit cheaper or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say like just go straight. I mean, Instagram has so many people. I'm going into a new frontier right now, and I started on it like 2 days ago, and I don't know anything about it. And I've just been hitting up people that collect that stuff, and I've probably met like 15 new people in the last 2 days, just like guys that collect stuff that I never even knew existed. And it's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this was a thing, but it is now, I guess.
And that's just straight up Instagram DMs.
Yep. And
Yep.
it's like, and I don't try to play the whole like, oh, I'm this guy, I have this channel. I just go in like I know nothing,
Yeah.
and I try to like like come in with a level playing field of like, hey, I'm just trying to buy this stuff like you are. Like what's the story? What's good? What's not? What do I look for? What's the difference between these two parallels, the variations that there are?
Yeah.
So,
I think humility in this hobby goes a long way.
yeah.
It's a hobby that has a lot of people that are willing to help, but there are also a lot of posers that just they like to flex, and that's all they're in for it for. So if you can approach someone with genuine questions about something and show that um, you're willing to sort of reciprocate and give back and sort of teach
Yeah.
the community up, that's what is I think makes the hobby so strong in the end.
I have another point to that.
Mhm.
The hobby itself, and especially with how it's set up on Instagram and Facebook, is a very selfish hobby, and it's set
Yeah.
up to be so because it's all about your collection, your cards, your investment, and it's very individualistic and very selfish.
Hmm.
So if you are even just a little bit humble, like you said, and you're just willing to give back to someone else just a little bit, you stand out a lot, and
Hmm.
you can really move up in the game if you do it even just a little bit. So if you do it a lot, man, like people will come to you for stuff because they know you're not going to screw them because you actually care.
Hmm.
People will come to you to show you rare stuff they have found, like because they know that you're just not going to flip it or whatever. There's a lot of benefit to coming into it with humility and not being selfish.
Hmm. I'm just thinking about one of my buddies and I just finished up a trade. It was nothing big. It was for a $30 Vladimir Guerrero Jr. first Bowman, but he was getting hung up because he's like, I feel like I'm screwing you over. That's a $45 card. I'm only giving you $20 worth of cards. And if you're solely of the flipper mentality, you're looking at it saying, I bought this card for $20, spent $10 to get it graded. I need to recoup my investment. But if you approach it as like, this is a person that is really into collecting this card, like, I really don't care what I get in return as long as it's something that I can be proud of adding to my PC. But at the same time, it's this card now has a story behind it. you pick that card up, and it's not just I bought this card with a $5 eBay bucks coupon last month. It's I got this from my buddy Tom, and we met in a Whole Foods parking lot in the middle of a pandemic to make the deal happen. But to piggyback or sort of transition into how you're acclimating yourself into a new market, you're one of the co-founders of cardladder.com, and the hobby has, I'd say, it's undergoing a renaissance right now with so many eyeballs on it, but it's also created an opportunity for startups like Card Ladder to provide a service to the hobby that it's greatly lacking. And for those viewers out there that aren't familiar with the application or the tool, could you just give a little bit of overview and sort of what the vision for the tool is?
Yeah, sure. So to start, we wanted to have a place where people could go to find values of cards and trust them. Because, eBay doesn't show best offer. There's all these other tools that go down all the time. So we just wanted a place where like we could organize and categorize different cards and sales histories and vet them ourselves. So like we would have gladly done this just for ourselves to have this database.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of like snowballed it into a service where, collectors want that data and they want to be able to see the sales history, but they also want to be able to do things with it, like organize their own collection, come up with goals of, how to act on those. We've come up with some strategies on like how to determine prices of cards that don't sell very often based on other cards that do sell a lot. So we've got some of those like fancier algorithm type things in there. And then, we've got like all the graphs and all the charting and stuff. And then we've got like, Chris also like analyzes the market on a daily basis based on, he's the one that's like reviewing all the sales. So he always jokes to me. He's like, I have like a front row seat to the hobby that no one else does. Cause I just am like looking at all these sales. I'm forced to because of Card Ladder, but it's giving me this, backstage pass or whatever.
I just picture Chris in the Matrix. And for anyone that doesn't know, Josh is referring to Chris, the one of the co-hosts of House of Jordans. It's sort of, it's your baby.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it's turned into like a big software app, and now Chris and I and his team have a pretty decent following, so it's kind of been a nice smooth launch with people supporting us and wanting to jump in, and now they're finding value using it daily. And I'm hoping guys like yourself enjoy it and keep coming back, because we'll just we love it so much. We're just going to keep adding to it and keep growing it. Like it's not going to stop, and it's not going to slow down. We just we hope that it's like a tool that the hobby kind of wraps their arms around and enjoys together.
It's, as someone that joined right after the beta launch or the first wave launch, I have uploaded almost 50 cards of mostly baseball, which aren't being actively tracked or on the ladder right now. But there's so much in there from a pure collection tracking standpoint, and the tools that you guys provide collectors, even if it's not being actively tracked in the database, that provides so much value to the end user. Can you talk a little bit about, sorry.
We're gonna have every card. Like Chris and I are, and the House of Jordans guys are like very tenacious in that. And we like the number one complaint we get is like, my card isn't in here, and we hear every single one of those and we love it. And like they will all be in there someday. It's just a, we can't make it happen overnight, and we wish we could, but we will. So, I don't want to say people are like investing early into it to wait for that payoff, but that's why we kind of gave the My Collection upload to kind of fill that gap until it is there.
Yeah.
But it will be there. So
it's agile development to its core, right? Get out a minimum viable product, and then as people provide feedback, build up those features.
I love that that much is impressive enough to me.
Yeah. So can you talk about like where Card Ladder and the tools on the site sort of play into where collectors and investors and flippers are looking to learn a little bit more about a new market or a new niche? Say you're a basketball collector, but you're coming in and you want to focus on Jack Eichel rookie cards for hockey.
Yeah.
How does a tool like Card Ladder sort of shorten that learning curve?
Well, I would say that's one of the best problems that we solve, because our scoring system and our algorithms are unbiased and they're completely data driven. So we just literally run, a software algorithm number crunching job every night, and it just spits out the numbers and gives you the order. So it just literally just tells you the story of the hobby every night. And someone who may not know all of these different cards can just kind of scroll through the ladder, see the order, see why we came up with these numbers, and you'll find stuff in there that, like, oh wow, I didn't realize that player X in this variation has doubled in price in the last week. That's insane. And you can gain a lot of things from just that simple data point, and seeing, like, I think I saw that it was like the triple Bird Magic Irving card was like number 1 on the ladder, and there's a lot of things you could learn from that. One is like, I probably shouldn't buy that card right now because it's super hot and it's jumped a lot. Second is like, what's similar to this card that isn't in the top 20 on the ladder? Let me go dig around and try to find similar cards to this. And now I know a lot more about vintage. I know, I know that vintage is popping off because it's high up in the ladder, but maybe some hasn't, and I'll go find some other similar vintage cards. So that's like one quick example of, I just learned something new about vintage. It was number 1. You forced me to look at vintage, and now I know about it.
And information is power in this hobby more so than anything. An example I can think of is when I got into the hobby, I started, PSA has a set registry for the top 200 baseball cards of the 20th century. So I started buying up PSA 10s of cards that were in the 80s for $10 to $15 on eBay. And not all of us have hours and hours a day available to listen to podcasts, watch YouTube content. So you can miss trends pretty quickly. And I was a month or two late to the 80s card explosion. So I had maybe 10, 15 cards I spent $100 on that were currently valued at $1,600 or $1,700. Just like overprinted 80s junk wax and high grades. And I think COVID has, it's one of the reasons that you saw that spike and that jump. But having a tool like Card Ladder, you'd be able to identify that upward trajectory a little bit earlier on and not be blindsided where it's like, all right, shoot, I need to spend my weekend uploading these cards because I don't give two shits about them and I'd rather sell them for $100 a piece.
Right.
But on that note, how would you advise, well, not advise, but what advice would you give to collectors trying to navigate the market the way it is right now? Things at like all-time highs, volatile, prices spiking every single day.
Right. Yeah, it's really tough, man, because when you and I started, things were a lot cheaper, and we have the advantage of time, experience, and time to like build up what we have now, and we have leverage. So it's really hard for someone that has just started, especially with everything at all-time high. It's really tough. I'd say the first thing is patience. Like, you're not going to be able to catch up to anyone overnight. It's just not going to happen. So you have to kind of like pick and choose your spots and try and like spread yourself out into, let me buy a couple things that I know are safe. Let me buy like a nice PSA 10 LeBron. Let me buy a PSA 10 Zion. Let me buy a PSA 10 baseball card, whether that's, Mookie Betts or Bellinger or one of these guys. And then let me take some risks on some other stuff that I think might pay off. And then also let me just like focus on building up a PC of stuff that I enjoy that maybe no one else does. And maybe that'll pay off. So you just kind of like try to maybe like diversify, I guess, and try to like do a few things. If you try to go ham on one idea, if it doesn't work out, you're just going to get burned and you're going to get frustrated and leave. And if you only do PC, you're not going to be making the money you want. So yeah, it's tough. Honestly, like, it's really hard. I definitely wouldn't advise coming in and like spending a ton of money right now. I would take it slow and
2020.
Yeah. Yeah, the first thing that, I mean, in general, when you're new, and the first thing that you see when you come in is something that a bunch of people have already bought and have already like moved through, because that's what's popular and that's what's moving up in price, and that's the first thing you see. So if that's all you know, that's what you buy. You're going to get crushed. You got to spend some time in the market, seeing other stuff and finding cards that aren't just reaching all-time highs, right? So like patience and understanding what else is out there.
And it adds a different aspect to the hobby. Like you're a Penny Hardaway collector through and through, but if you're just on eBay every night looking at just penny cards, the hobby's going to get stale pretty quickly.
Yeah, totally.
And when you add the fact in that, like, oh, if I can spec on some Trae Young or Zion cards, I can watch them play. I'm invested in what's going on in the sport right now, and it just adds fuel to the fire to like pick up more stuff. And if they pop off and you're not necessarily sold on them as a core PC player, then you just found some money to pick up some sweet penny cards. On that note, though, is there anything that you took from your background as a penny collector to jump into another player's market? Is there anything you learned through operating in the penny sort of 90s high-end insert market that enabled you to be in a position to like jump on the LeBron RPA?
Yeah, totally. The thing that I learned most about that is most people don't, can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
Most people don't give a shit about anything but the top part of your PC. And, as someone who collects, I don't really care what people think about the depth of my penny PC, but if I am coming into it with the goal of like making a little bit of money while I do it, you have to know which cards to buy of that player, or it just doesn't matter. Like I've tried to buy, I'll PC a guy, or I'll try to like invest in a guy, and I'll buy, I'll be anxious and I'll be excited and I'll go on eBay and just start buying a lot of it. And then when I go to sell it, I lose money on everything except for like the main stuff, and I make money on that. So you just sort of, after that, it's like, what's the point of me buying, like a pink Pulsar PSA 10 when I could have just bought 2 silver 10s? And like that's just kind of the reality of it. That's what I learned. And it's kind of a harsh reality, because you're like, you're so into your own PC and those cards that you've like spent time finding that are rare, and then you get to the end of the road and you ask one person, what do they think of your PC? They only care about my green penny and like maybe a couple other ones, So I would advise go for those ones first and get those out of the way, because those are the ones that are going to go up in value the most, and those are the ones people care about. And then if you're really strong about your PC guy, then like over time add those rare pieces that are just for you.
Yeah. Now, is that an approach that you took with Mahomes? I saw you were selling some fairly big Mahomes cards on Instagram.
Yeah, totally. I mean, now there's also another side to this, which is like everyone buys those popular cards, and you can make your own kind of niche and market for stuff that's not the main stuff. And I found that with Mahomes' second year cards. And I just, the rookie market was just so tapped when I joined. It was like the Prism rookie PSA 10. There's like a million of those things, and they're already like $3,000. Like I just didn't see
that's insane.
How much more potential you could get there when I could get a gold second year for $1,000. I just like, that doesn't really make any sense to me. I felt like some market is due there for some correction to kind of match what's happening to the rookie stuff. So yeah.
So if you're looking at like the GOATs of each sport, like Trout for baseball, LeBron, MJ for basketball, if you're talking Gretzky, McDavid for hockey, everyone says they collect them, which really means they're ripping wax and they're keeping the base cards of those players and then donating the rest of them. But if you're a legitimate collector, you want to invest in these guys, and the market is already so hot and there's so many people battling for the same cards, how can you get ahead? How can you get the cards that you want without paying triple what they're actually worth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm encountering this problem myself with LeBron. Like every card that I want of LeBron now is like, 10,000 up, and it's like, what am I
Mhm.
supposed to do? I don't have infinite money. I physically can't just like go get those cards.
Yeah.
So, you get creative. Honestly, you start to zag around stuff, and you try to find similar stuff, and you sort of like move around what you actually want,
Hmm.
and sell some of that stuff to pay for what you really want.
That's great advice. I think there's too many people out there that they get caught up in the hype. Um, they see a big card sell for something and then they try and chase that.
Hmm.
I keep going back to Topps Project 2020, but 100,000 Ken Griffey, Keith Shore cards is example A.
Get
We
those
could have,
boxes.
yeah.
Griffey. Good thing I only
Um,
bought a couple.
we could have a whole show based on just Project 2020, and many channels have. But if we want to sort of jump into another part of your hobby history, how to collect cards.com, can you let the viewers know sort of what the website is and what you were looking to do when you had built that out?
Yeah, sure. So how to collect cards is a like training course that I
Mm-hmm.
had built for helping people navigate and sort of like get started in the hobby. And you and I were talking about it before we came on a little bit, but the main focus of it is that it is about teaching you sort of the principles and like the foundation of the hobby versus like, tell me what card to buy right now.
Yeah.
So, most channels, most YouTube content is like, buy this today, get rich, in a week, and this stuff will go up. I'm trying to keep it more long term focused on like, here, let me teach you how to find that card without having someone else have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me help you navigate the entire hobby as a whole and understand how it all works before you go out and just buy 50 Zion PSA 10s. You should understand how that all works before you jump into something like that. And so that site's been live for a while. It literally is just like, me blabbing on video, in an organized fashion. There's like, it's very organized, but there's different chapters and topics and categories, and everything's documented and everything. But it's just, me kind of going through what I've learned in the hobby, what mistakes you should avoid, and just kind of covers like basically everything, in like a 3-hour training course.
Yeah. I think so. There's a bunch of studies out there that talk about like um, the growing hobby, one, but that being supported by sports fans too, that are going to come in, they're going to
Yeah,
buy a few cards, and then they're going to get hooked, and the hobby's going to be sticky. But if they're buying, like if they're coming in for baseball and buying boxes of Allen and Ginter, or they're going into basketball and
totally,
they're buying Score, like, sorry, if I opened up a box of Score and that's my only experience with the hobby, I'm not sticking around very long.
totally.
Or you're going to eBay, you're watching some YouTube content, and they're like, here are the top 20 cards that you have to buy before the baseball season starts. Um, there's no thought or effort. You just hear someone say, go buy this card. I'm going to buy this card.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, you're looking at it and it's like, why did I bother spending money on this? I wish I had that money back.
Yeah.
Whereas if you build out a strategy, you're actively looking to acquire certain cards and sort of work your way up.
Hmm.
It's sort of like the gamification of the hobby, versus just like, let's not be cheap and just follow the herd.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. What you're saying is kind of like the number one thing I would say that I try to focus on with my content is that if we know the hobby's growing and we know new people are coming in, the problem we want to solve if we want them to stay is how do we get them to stay? How do we nurture those people that come into the hobby? And the best way to do it is to educate them and to
yeah,
make them understand how it's going to work so that they don't get burned and they don't get frustrated and leave. And
hmm,
there's a bunch of different ways that you can get burned, and there's less ways that you can be successful. So you got to really like hammer home the education part of it, and also like make it fun. Like people come
yeah,
in, I'm not trying to like rip off these people. I'm trying to make it fun for them so that they stay long term, because I know the long term
hmm,
game for me is where every house in America is eventually collecting sports cards. That's like obviously the utopian like part where like literally everyone's doing it, which is never going to happen. But we can't get anywhere near that if we're all ripping each other off and just like pumping and dumping these stupid base cards all day. Like we have to be much more long-term thinking about that. And that's, if we're all that way, the hobby will grow organically and we'll all make money from it. So it's just like, it's like a team effort here.
Yeah. There's so much stuff going on behind the scenes with the manufacturers where people will say like the hobby's biggest problem is the distribution model or insertion ratios. There's no limit on the amount of stuff they can print. But if you take a step back, it's like you need a collector base to support them printing that. So it's really, I see that in what you just articulated as the hobby's biggest problem, but everyone's so infatuated with pointing the finger at Topps and Panini that they get lost in everything in between.
Yeah, if you pay a company money to make you things and you keep paying them and you pay them more and more, guess what they're going to do? They're going to print more. They're going to make more. They're going to keep doing it over and over until you stop paying them.
Money talks, bullshit walks. So we've mentioned Cardboard Chronicles, Card Ladder, and how to collect cards. And I don't know if it was consciously or you backed into it, but you've done an excellent job of building up your brand and your name in the hobby. I think just having a LeBron RPA or a Penny Green PMG would give you sort of that cred, but you've gone over and above to sort of put your name out there that I'm an approachable person that's willing to help people out. It's my responsibility to teach people what I've learned over the years. How have you gone about building that brand and that presence across multiple platforms?
Well, I feel like any successful social media person would tell you this. So I'll just say it anyways. It's just me being myself. Like I'm really not trying to force anything. I honestly feel like I don't give much effort on social media. Like I'm not on Instagram posting a ton. I maybe post once a day. I don't have like a ton of stories like some other people maybe, putting a ton of hours into it. It's just really just kind of like, I'm just kind of doing what I think is right. And I'm just being myself. I'm not trying to like stretch myself past that. I'm not trying to pretend, the cards that I post are cards that I buy and cards that I sell, I sell them on eBay and I sell them to whoever. And there's not really much to hide, or there's not really any focus for me on like building the brand. It's more just, I just love the hobby so much and I spend so much time on it and I think about it so much that like, it's just sort of like oozing out of me.
It's almost like, how do you get more viewers on your YouTube channel? It's not like, here are the 5 tips and tricks to like improve traffic to your site. It's really like build something that you can be genuinely proud of and be genuine, and people are going to come. If you're trying to put up a facade of like, I'm actually interested in this, and you're just looking for clicks, it's not really going to follow.
Actually, this is going to be ironic and funny, but I actually followed a lot of Gary Vee, prior to this whole card thing, just completely separating him from the fact that he's in our world now. But I used to follow a lot of Gary Vee, and he always talks about this kind of thing where, people will come to him with questions like, how do I get 1,000 followers tomorrow night? And he's like, is your goal to get followers, or is it to like be better at like what you enjoy? I don't understand. Well, I want to get 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers. I can't help you solve that problem. What I can help you solve is like, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? Put a microphone in front of yourself and start talking about it, and then people will start to follow you. That's it.
Yeah. Outside the hobby, you look at Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, he's one of America's greatest businessmen, and he didn't start off by saying, I'm going to be the richest man in America, or I'm going to be the lead of this company. He went to school for engineering, and he built up a passion about making the world a different place. And he's achieved these fame and riches because he was passionate about something, and he does not sleep until he achieves his vision. The fame, the notoriety, the money that comes along with it, but it's a byproduct of the passion, the effort that he's funneled into this one vision. He stayed focused over the years, and he sort of refined it. And you can take that and apply it to if you're a content creator, if you're a collector, just a whole wide variety of things.
Yeah, and none of this stuff happens overnight, you know, like it just takes time. Like, you just have to, it's a slow build. Musk didn't freaking send up a rocket ship his second day at Tesla, right? It took a long time to get to that point. And all these people that you see that are successful and have all these great cards, and dude, I know a lot of those people, and those people are grinding every day, and they're on Instagram 6 hours a day, wheeling and dealing cards and researching and asking questions. And it is, you know, it's just it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time. And it's like that with anything. You can't just like be good at something really fast. You got to put time into it, or like, you know, you're just fooling yourself that you can get rich overnight.
Yeah. You're not going to be a Photoshop expert after you take an 8-hour class. It's going to take months of daily practice and incorporating it in your routine to be an expert. And sports cards are the same. I know we only got a couple minutes left, so I want to leave our viewers with a strong piece of advice. So if you are talking to someone that is brand new to the hobby, they're coming in, they're looking to sort of create a self-sustaining hobby, build their collection through funds that they've generated through buying and selling cards, where would you suggest they start? They know nothing about the hobby. They saw a video on YouTube and they said, oh, that was cool, I want to start flipping cards.
I can't believe I haven't said this yet, but it's the easiest response. Just find things that you enjoy in the hobby. You know, find something that you would collect yourself if money was not a thing. Because once you get into that niche of the hobby or that area, you're gonna be way more successful because you already know something about it, and you care about it. You know, you're passionate about it. So because I have a friend, I grew up with him. You know, we were friends as kids, and you know, he's kind of seen my stuff grow, and he's been a little bit more interested over time. And then recently he was like, hey man, I think I'm ready to get in, you know, can you help me? What should I buy? And it's, you know, I start with like, well, what do you like? And he's like, well, I like football. Okay, well, great, let's start with football. Who do you like in football? I like Kyler Murray. Dude, perfect. Let's start buying Kyler Murray cards. Let's figure out which ones are the most important Kyler Murray cards, which ones are going to have the best long-term value, which ones do we think we can make some money on when the season gets closer. And, you know, he's probably made $5,000 to $10,000 just on Kyler Murray cards because he knows a lot about him, and he's more than I do. He was telling me what, like, eventually after a while, he's like, I think we should start buying these Kyler Murray cards or these, you know, Lamar Jackson or Mahomes cards that I didn't even know about because I don't know that much about football. So it just took like a little nudge of him, you know, to get into something that he enjoyed for him to then take off with it and run with it, and then know more about it than me within a week or two. It's like, because he cares about football more than I do. I'm just not going to spend the time as much as he would because I just, you know, I like basketball more. So definitely start with what you enjoy, your niche, because I promise you there's some place in every part of the hobby that where you can make money and where you can be successful and build up PC. So just kind of start where, you know, what you're good at.
Excellent piece of advice. I know the hobby isn't a job. Sometimes if you're in it for solely the profit, it can feel like a job. But if you pick a job you love, you're really never going to work a day in your life, right?
So true.
But Josh, this has been a pleasure. Let everyone know where they can find you, social media channels, what business ventures you got out there in the market, and we can wrap this up.
Sure. So start Instagram, Cardboard_Chronicles. YouTube is just Cardboard Chronicles. Cardladder.com. howtocollectcards.com. So I think that's it.
I think it is. I'll post everything in the description below. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of tonight's conversation. If there's any questions you have for Josh and I, we're happy to field them. Check out his channel. Make sure to check out Card Ladder. And I think that's all we got for tonight. Thanks, everyone. I'm Cardi-C, the baseball card collector. We'll catch you guys later.